Okay, so good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for this informational webinar about the Thriving Communities Grants Program. I just wanted to get us started with a little housekeeping with Zoom. If you could just stay muted unless you have a question, that would be great. But if you do have a question, please raise your hand. You can see that at the bottom of the screen. There's an option to raise your hand, or you can also just type your question into the chat and we can try to answer questions as we go. And then we can also have time at the end for questions. So we'll make sure to leave at least 15 minutes for questions, probably more than that. So yeah, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Stephanie so she can give us an overview of the grant program and introduce the staff.
Hi, everybody. I am Stephanie, and it's so good to see all of you here. And welcome to Thriving Communities Grants. So I'm going to introduce you to the Rural CAP Thriving Communities Grants team. This is who is on the receiving end when you use that grants@ruralcap.org email address. We have Tim, who's on the team, if you want to wave. We have Iva, who welcomed you to this space, and we have Maggie, who is the queen of Thriving Communities. She keeps us in line. So we are so happy that you are here and that you are interested to learn more about this opportunity. This is a I like to say it's a broad but specific grant. So it is all about the official titles, COVID-19 health equity. So to be more specific, as much as I can be, it's about the social determinants of health, but it's basically activities and projects that will promote health equity and reduce disproportionate negative health outcomes. So things that are going to reduce risk of illness. And so we all know COVID-19 sort of opened our eyes to a lot of things. So we have done a lot of work with the state to try to kind of pinpoint a little bit more about what they're looking for, since this funding is from them, which they got it from the federal government. So what I want to make sure I highlight for you is the FAQs that we started to create. That will go onto our website. We wanted to make sure if there are other questions that popped up in this conversation that we include those for others that couldn't be here today. So I'll walk you through the FAQs that we do have to maybe answer some immediate questions, and to also take a look at the grant guidelines if you haven't seen those already. So I am going to share, well, let's look at the grant guidelines first. So I will share my screen with you so you can see what these look like. So hopefully I have to move my screen over. Can you guys see these grant guidelines? Good. Okay, perfect. So this is actually already on our website, ruralcap.org. So hopefully you have seen these, read through them. They are available to you. There's lots of links to different websites to give a little bit more definition of what the state is hoping that we fund through this opportunity. And economic stability, education access and quality, healthcare access and quality, neighborhood and built environment, social and community context, which is basically, context can mean support as well in this, are direct quotes from the Center of Disease Control website of social determinants of health. And so we took some language from there and put it in just to provide some more context. I know this can be sort of confusing, or you may have an idea for a project and not quite sure how it fits in or where it best fits in. And the grants team is happy to walk you through that. You can send an email and we can walk through that via email. You can, whatever works best, you can call. Usually when we reply to an email, you'll have our numbers there. You can also, I think you can find our numbers online. the eligibility criteria is pretty straightforward. Federally recognized tribes, nonprofit organizations, and really the biggest one is ineligible projects. One of the questions that we got a lot when we first opened this a couple weeks ago was construction, being able to build things. What does that look like? What does that mean? And unfortunately, construction is not allowed with this grant funding. And when we look at the FAQs, we'll kind of walk through exactly what that means. But hopefully this provides some help and support to you as you go through the application. We really did try to make the application as easy as possible, and Maggie will walk you through kind of the application process. But just some highlights, we do have a copy of the application in PDF form on our website, and they are due June 16th. It is a very fast turnaround, we recognize that, but we are here to support you as much as we can. So again, these grant guidelines are available on our website if you have any questions. If there is any further information that we've learned from the state in terms of reporting, we will make sure to notify everybody just so you're aware when you apply what the requirements would be, as well as a scoring matrix, which is still in its final stages of creation. The scoring matrix of how projects will be evaluated will be on our website, so you can see. We can make that accessible to you. If you have any questions about that, then we can answer those later, since it's still being developed. So these are the grant guidelines, and again, they are available on the website. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm just going to pause for a second if anybody has a question about the grant guidelines, and you can raise your hand or just start talking. Really, I just needed to do that so I could get to my next tab. But if anybody does have anything that they need to ask right away, please don't hesitate to just ask the question, raise your hand, or interrupt me. I'm totally fine with that. So here's our Thriving Communities FAQs. Some very basic information about it at the top. Who can apply, what it's for, who's eligible, how much money. The awards can be a range from $5,000 to $250,000. We don't have an average amount that awards are going to be, since we have not done this funding before, but just know that that is the range. Another question that we got a lot was, can funds be given upfront or only reimbursed? And it's kind of a either or situation. So, but only reimbursed back to May 2023. So this month. But again, the awards wouldn't get paid out until the end of June. So that's like a month or two that can get reimbursed from the back end. But then as you move forward, and if you are awarded the grant, then we can talk through what that looks like for your organization. And we can't give a grant to you, the individual. I know that's a bummer. You can't purchase land or renovate a building. Again, that's sort of the construction conversation. Demolition is not allowed. Have no fear. You can have land surveyed. You can put personnel costs and indirect costs into this. Again, the FAQs will go on our website. So based after today's conversation, any additional questions that you all bring to the table, we want to make sure we reflect in here so that we give the best information possible before anybody applies, or just sort of clarify things as much as we can. So this will be on our website. This is just so you can see what we're sort of putting together, and the biggest questions that we've received so far since the grant has opened. Another big one was that food cannot be purchased for events. You can't purchase food with these dollars. So if you had a food pantry and you wanted to fill it with food, you can't pay for the cost of food. However, if you needed food shipped to you, the shipping costs are allowed. So if you have any questions about that, we can clarify that. when we do our Q&A later in this meeting. And another question that we have received a lot is, if you have multiple project ideas, can you apply for different projects? And the answer is yes, you can. An organization may apply for multiple projects that are in alignment with the purpose of the grant. So we want to make sure we get this money out across the state. And so please, your ideas, and if you want to bounce ideas off of us, don't hesitate. You can always bounce ideas. I see a hand. You go ahead. And what's your question?
Hi there. Thank you so much. My question is, we want to do an activity with the Title I school, and it involves getting snacks, like, because we'll go to the movie theater, and we wanted to include popcorn snack packs. Does that count as food? So should we not include that in our request?
From what I understand, that would be a food request. So we wouldn't be able to purchase that food, but I'm looking at my teammates because I'm wondering if it could be, if you're going to a movie theater or something, if you could buy like a gift card and the gift card can be used. So I'm hoping that one of them could clarify. And Maggie, yes.
No, you
Okay.
cannot buy a gift card with federal funding.
Okay.
So we cannot buy gift cards. The only way you could possibly sneak that in is if you bought some sort of a package from the movie theater that was, you know,
All inclusive or whatever.
all inclusive.
And that may be a great way to partner. And maybe, you know, if you're purchasing movie passes or whatever, and then if the entity could donate, then that's something that you would just deal with as an organization. But thank you, Maggie, for clarifying that. And that was a great question. And then the other question that I know many of you may want to be aware of is who is going to be making the selections or recommendations for this funding. So the goal is we will have we'll have statewide representation sitting on a selection committee that will meet and go through the scoring matrix and then make recommendations, which will be which will go forward in our own sort of internal process. But yeah, we're hoping to have statewide representation, and those invitations for who exactly will be on the selection committee that will go out this week. So I can't tell you who because I'm not sure yet. But we do have some people that are interested in joining it, so that all across the state we have good representation of who knows what's going on in their regions and can speak to what organizations maybe are doing, and can just give us some good insight. So that is sort of the gist of the FAQs. And I see that there's lots of comments in the chat. So I'm going to stop.
It looks like people are asking the total amount of funding for disbursement, not per grant, but for the entire funds available.
It is a little over $5 million.
Mhm.
And there was another question about the gift cards potentially not being a federal guideline, but rural cap or state guideline.
So this particular pot of money has come through the Center for Disease Control, and everything that I read on their site does not allow for gift cards. I mean, I'm not saying like this particular pot of federal funding they are relatively strict about a lot of things that other federal government agencies may not be, like the whole food thing. So I can't speak to every federal fund, but everything I've found on this one, because I went through a lot of it just to see about when they said no to the food. It does not appear as though they allow gift cards.
And then, someone's asking if they wanna, apply for multiple projects, so they submit one application or multiple applications. I think my understanding would be that it would be multiple applications unless the multiple projects were related to each other in a way that made sense for it to be framed as one project. Does that make sense?
And I would almost caution if it's multiple applications, the chances of the funding for all of them, we can't, if someone's going to apply for 10 different projects with 10 different applications, the chances of all 10 of those being approved is not very high. And so if you can sort of bring them together so you're not submitting a bunch of different applications, because it does, we need to understand what the priorities for your organization. Of course, we want all the things to get done, and here's some funding that seems pretty flexible, but just really be mindful of what your organization really does need to meet their mission, and work your application if you can combine them to move it forward, because the more applications we receive, we want to be able to make sure that it's a diverse distribution across the state. So I would just caution that be really intentional with the application that you turn in, and really try to combine them as much as you can.
Stephanie, there's someone with a hand up as well, Jessica.
I just wanted to ask, I know you said that construction is not allowed, and I thought I saw somewhere that like renovation is not allowed either. So is that true, or?
Correct. Renovation. Yeah, there's no construction, no major or minor renovations are allowed with this funding.
Would architectural, to go along with that, would like architectural renderings or plans to get to like construction be allowed?
From what I understand, that would be allowed. So like surveying land is an allowable expense. And so meeting with an architect and having plans drawn up, I believe, is also allowed. And my teammates can disagree with me if they heard something different, but I believe like that's fine. It's just if you're gonna use anything that, nails and hammers and start, digging up dirt, then that sort of crosses that line. But meeting with an architect is fine.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
There is a question about if a vehicle is considered equipment, and maybe we could just go over the what's allowable with regards to equipment.
So according to the state, a vehicle would be allowable. The problem is the state has some strange regulations in and of themselves that require vehicles go through an additional approval process. So it's not a clear yes or a clear no. It's more along the lines of apparently any equipment has to, or any vehicles, and we're not talking about equipment. They're fine with four-wheelers, they're fine with leveling equipment, they're fine with snow machines. But for some reason, the state has an additional approval process for vehicles, for roadworthy vehicles. So I can't tell you yes, and I can't tell you no. I can tell you we would have to go back to the state to get specific approval for a pass-through vehicle, a vehicle in a pass-through grant.
Well, if there's not any questions right now, should we? Oh, I see Cole just raised his hand.
Sorry, yeah, I do have two questions. Maybe one of them is discussion, but for the first one, looking over the application, the fourth text prompt on the application is talking about community partners. And I wanted to ask, you know, I'm assuming that getting letters of support would be a part of getting community partners bought in and demonstrating to y'all that we have community support. Would those letters of support be submitted on the eCivis portal, or should those be attached in an email, perhaps?
The eCivis portal allows for you to upload documents, so they can certainly be submitted there.
Excellent. The other question that I have is that the application itself, the fillable PDF, it looks like it has 4 text prompts where you would write stuff in. It seems to fit maybe about a paragraph of text, maybe something in the neighborhood of, 400 words. Are y'all expecting longer text submissions than that, or is shorter sweeter in this context?
That's a great question. And I would say shorter is sweeter. You know, if you can keep it to a page, 500 words, the more succinct, the better. And this is just going to be a very transparent comment, is each application will be read by people. And so the quicker you can get to your point of what is your need, how it's going to impact your community, that is always ideal. We want to hear about you and your organization, how great it's doing, but really succinct is best.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would also just add to that that there is some space on the timeline portion of the application where, like, if you wanted to put more information on the activities in there, that's also where you can put that. But I mean, they're going to be short projects because it has to be done by end of next May. So okay. Well, should we move on to Maggie, and then maybe we could do more questions after Maggie shows us the eCivis portal?
Okay. I am going to share my screen. Okay. Everyone can see my screen. So basically, you will go to our website, scroll down to the news portion, and click on the Thriving Communities Grant Program. And then down at the bottom, this is the PDF application. This is the RFP. If you click on the apply online, it will bring you to basically this is the beginning of the eCivis, but this is the informational tab for it. And it goes through the overview, the eligibility, any financial information, that's the contact. And then if we uploaded any files, they would be here. We will eventually upload the RFP and the frequently asked questions in here also. But then you will click on apply, and you will create an account. And so we will I am currently creating a bogus account. And we're going to use Maggie's personal email. Okay, so then you created the portal, and we can go in. Not verified your email. Okay, fine. Go back and see, I can't go in under my own, under my actual one, because if I do, like, that goes to the whole thing, because I'm an admin on the whole system, which makes it difficult. Oh, they told me this would work. Like, I could just go in and give them another one, but apparently it doesn't love that.
Well, do we want to do more questions right now then, and then
So let
maybe
me
if
see
you
if I can get back here.
and figure that
Mm.
out?
Yeah, go ahead and ask more questions, because it's trying to verify my email, which is not what it's supposed to be doing. This is, so part of our issues with this particular, this kind of is rolled out strangely in that until we actually got this grant, we didn't really have a reason to have an electronic portal application system. So we have been building this while we were writing the RFP and while we were doing other things. So it's been kind of interesting in and of itself. So it's been a little rocky in some regards for us. But
Does anyone have any questions while we're getting set up?
I'm just gonna log in with the other.
So I'm looking at some of the questions in the chat, and I'm sorry if I'm missing some, but can the fund be used for planning versus implementation of a social service project? I'm gonna say a tentative yes, and I think it would be great to just have a conversation with what your plans are for that, and we can walk through that. I've had a couple conversations with organizations of something similar, so and it's been a good fit. So I would say let's have a conversation, and we can give you a little bit more guidance for planning versus implementation, because I do think you don't want to just dive into something. You want to make sure you have a good plan so it's successful. So let's have a conversation. So it's a tentative yes. And then I saw a couple questions about, is there a match required? And there is not a required match. And just as a reminder, these are federal dollars that are funding this award. And so if you are trying to use this funding as a match, it cannot be a match for another federal grant. So you can't match federal grants to each other. So that's just a FYI. But these are really great questions, and I'm glad that you are along for the ride with us, because this is exciting. So So, and if, I'm gonna put in the chat just as a reminder to everybody,
Okay.
the email, but I see Maggie, you are online, so I'm gonna go mute.
Yes. So, okay. So apparently it makes you, every time you set up a new one, makes you verify your portal account, your email account for your portal. So once you, you will act that, apparently there is a second step that is now in place now that we're live. I didn't have to do this the first time when we were testing this. You will set up your portal account, you will get an email and then you have to go and verify it, and then you log into the portal, which basically will look like this. And then you can, so you can click on the Thriving Communities. You will create a new application. We tried to make this as simplistic as possible, taking into account that there's a lot of people who have iffy internet. We want to get this as far across, as widespread across the state as we can, these grants. And so we decided to allow for people to do an application. Welcome to the portal. So you either log in again to access your applications account, or you can sign up for a new account. If you're doing multiple applications, you have the same login no matter what. Then I am sorry, but this is technically the first time that we are logging into the live portal. It actually went live yesterday afternoon. Like what do you mean wrong email? I just set it up. Okay. This may be painful. Oh. I'm gonna have to go back to them and make them fix this thing. Because you shouldn't have to log in twice. Okay, what are you doing? Okay, so now I have a draft. Okay. Returning user. Why is this is not what it looked like yesterday? Okay. Right, I am sorry, this may not be. Then once we're finally in here, you will fill out the information about yourself and your organization. Anything with a red asterisk. So personally. So where it says company and company website, this is for people who are applying on behalf of others. Where it says organizational name, this is the organization that is applying for the actual grant. I know that there are some people who are independent grant writers who write for other organizations or contractors. That's in that, if that is you, you would be filling out the portion up here where it says company, etc. The organization's name and your tax ID number, or your these two are required. We require your tax ID number because we may, depending on your organization status, have to issue a 1099. So if you choose to, you can give us your UEI or DUNS. The authorized representative will be the person, your agency or organization in your organization who can sign the grant agreement. So that can be whomever is authorized to sign. If you have a particular person who is your accounting lead, your finance staff that will be doing like financial reporting for you, you can give us that information here. That is not required. We do obviously need your address. And city and zip. This does automatically, it is a drop down, but it does automatically start filling out. And then a phone number. It can be whatever phone number you want, but we need one. And then if you have other people that you would like, if different from above, you can add these people in below. These are not required. Then you will create your profile. So then, and as you can see, I have another one too. This is the actual application, which you click on the box and then you open it. Things that you will then have to go through this is basically a repeat of a portion of your application. We have decided that if you're willing to, we would greatly appreciate you filling out the online application or copying and pasting from the PDF if you've already done it. But if it is a hardship for you to get the entire application filled out online, please let us know. And we will work to get it into the system. But basically the ones that are at the top here that are have the red asterisk, you have to fill out. Please keep in mind that the application or the actual grants will be issued through the system. So and the reporting will happen in the system also. So you do at least have to have the baseline of what for contacts and stuff. So choose which one you are. If you choose other, it's going to ask you what other means. If you are not IRS 501c3, it will give you a box to upload your IRS determination letter. The organization's mission statement and services overview is not required, but you can fill it out. We would like to know the title of your project, what you're calling it. And then the project personnel name. So if you have someone other than your authorized representative who has to sign the agreement, if there's someone in your, like if you have a project lead, That's where this information would go. And then kind of what their role is in the project. And then if you want to include any other people, you can include them in this box. Because we are actually required to report to the state how we are distributing this money. We do need you to choose a region served. You can check more than one if you are serving multiple regions, or if you are a statewide organization, you can check statewide at the bottom. And then we need you to choose which grant category. And as I said, this basically follows the PDF application itself. We then move on to the grant category, which is basically where you feel your project fits. So it can be healthcare access, education access, neighborhood, and built-in social and community context support. Then we go to your requested award amount. And then we are asking, although it is not required, a minimum amount. So if we get an enormous amount of applications and we are unable to award full awards, but we still have, well, so we have more money than we can give out. I mean, if we have more applications than we have money, we would like to know what the minimum amount needed is. That is not a required field. And then you can, if you've already filled out your PDF application, you can upload, you can select the file and you can upload it. So it's still open. These are, of course, just weird stuff Maggie has in her box. You can also copy and paste or write your project narratives. It's basically the same questions as the application. And then if you have particular goals in your application, you answer this question either yes or no or not. If you don't have goals, then it's NA. And then once you've completed all the required information, you've uploaded what's required or not, or what you want, you have the choice of either saving it as a draft. If you're in the middle of working on it and you leave and come back, you save it as a draft. Once you're completely done, you will mark it as complete. Once it is marked as complete, that means that your application is in. At that point, we do not have the opportunity to, other than rejecting it, you do not have the opportunity to change it after that point. I would require someone in our organization to go in and reject your application, and then that would send it back. But it's not, that would require an email to the grants team, etc. So your best bet is to save it as a draft and then go over the entire thing again after you've had, I don't know, perhaps a cup of coffee and you're fully awake, and then review it and then mark it as complete. But like I said, if actually filling the entire thing out online is onerous due to your internet access, please remember, we are trying to make this as simple as possible for everyone so that the opportunity is there for everyone to actually apply. And so you can upload your file. So long as you fill out the original 6-7 questions that are required to basically establish your profile and your project information. Does anybody have any questions?
I would like to ask for a little clarification on the have you completed your application goals question. When I look at this, I'm just curious if that is for us. Is that for y'all? What does that indicate to y'all?
You want to take that, Stephanie? Or should I?
Why don't you explain it, Maggie? You've had a lot of time into eCivis.
So basically, one of the things that we are unable to get real clarification from the state, because the state does not have real clarification from the CDC, is if there are certain reporting goals. So for our purposes, we have established 2 goals. One of them is number of communities served, and one of them is number of people served. The other one. So if in fact those goals in some way relate to yours, or if you have goals of your own that you would like to report on, then it is an option for you. We cannot tell you at this point, since once again, this money came from the CDC to the state, to us, and the CDC has not been horribly open about what precisely they're going to require. We wanted to leave the opportunity if people wanted to report on goals. So it's either yes, no. So basically it's either yes, no, or you don't have goals and it's NA. Unfortunately with eCivis, the system is not horribly flexible in, the goal portion of the system is not flexible at all. So our choice, and either we weren't going to put goals in this at all, or this is the question about goals. That was our choices. Since we didn't have, true clarification from the state or the CDC as to whether or not they're going to require something, we opted to put this question into the application. The decision to have goals or not have goals in eCivis is before we publish the application. So we put it in there just in case. We are not at this point, unless somebody comes back and tells us that we have to report certain measures to the CDC, to the state, who can then report to the CDC. We are not going to require goals, or at least that wasn't our intention. But since the choice to put them into an application happens before you publish that application, and we didn't have a really good answer, we put it in. I
So-
realize that's just about as clear as mud.
So does this question essentially mean, did you identify goals for your project?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Do you have identified goals? If you don't, the answer is no.
But we aren't able
if it's
to
if
change
it's
the question so that it's more clear.
No,
Okay.
that is this is the biggest hole in the eCivis program, is the goals are not flexible at all. And in fact, we couldn't even have goals, like we couldn't even decide on goals after the fact. It was like, it had to be done in the application before it was the electronic publishing happened. So at this point, I wouldn't worry about the goal question at all. I would just pick something, because unless we hear back that we have specific reporting requirements, we're probably not going to require anything for your goals for you. Right at the moment, our reporting to the state is a roll up of the entire project and is a narrative, and there are not particular reporting goals. But to be on the safe side, because we didn't get a definitive no, we're not going to have to do that, we put this question in, we put this question in there so that we have an opportunity later, if we have to go back and deal with it, to deal with it at that point.
And when will people be notified if they've been awarded? I'm assuming that the funds are for July 1, 2023 to end of the fiscal year, or May 2024. But when will people be notified? And I'm assuming they'll be notified through the email through this eCivis app. Is that correct?
So the application period closes on the 16th of June. We have all intentions of having the review completed by the 26th of June. And we plan on issuing the actual grants by the 30th. So that everybody has the, the full July 1 through May 31st to complete it, to complete their projects.
Great,
Otherwise,
thank
this is a
you.
very short turnaround.
And wow, thank you and wow. Okay, it's a lot for you guys, but thanks for the clarity.
Kelly asked a question about the budget requirements, and I'm not sure exactly what your question is, Kelly, if you want to unmute and explain that a little bit more.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, we were wondering, do we submit an itemized budget?
So the budget is, let me just go back one. Okay, so once you get through the application, then you scroll further down and there is a application budget and goals. So you will click on actions and edit the budget. And it says it doesn't exist, and then it eventually loads it. But the budget is the standard state budget for anyone who's actually had to deal with one. You have total direct costs, total indirect, total budget. We are not requiring match or cost share. I don't believe there would be any program income. Basically, it is personnel costs. You can fill them in by position. You add a row and you put in, one FTE coordinator. And the position and the title are basically the same. Great. But basically then you put in the units, like, so if it's 1.5, then whatever the unit cost is. So if it's, like 45,000 each person. And then you add your, another row for your, fringe, if you have fringe rate, or however you are handling your payroll generally. For those who have a federally determined fringe rate, it's position by salary and then the fringe. Some people are going to enter theirs as just like whatever the overall position costs for, salary and fringe together. You can click on anything that is blue and it will allow you to add. So if you have travel and you're going to do 3 trips, or 2 trips at $1,200 a piece, it will automatically, you can add another row if you have multiple trips. Facilities, same thing. Supplies, this is the basic state budget. Other costs, and then your indirect. And then you just save your changes. And it doesn't like anything I filled out but then basically the budget is directly below the actual application. So you have the basic application and the budget is below, but you should, this is once again, if you don't feel that you can get the budget in and you want to submit it in a PDF, because it's for whatever, you can't deal with the system, please let us know. We will try to help you get through it, get it in yourself, or if that's simply not an option because your internet is horrible, we will then, we'll figure out how to get it in the system ourselves.
I have another question. Do you know if there is I think Cole asked this before, is there a word count for each section that might be helpful for us to know before we get going as far as the text, not the budget, but as far as the questions?
The application is published as a fillable PDF, so it's just the limit would be how much can be put into that space. But I guess if you're not using the fillable PDF and you're just going directly into here, then I think we've decided it would be 500 words. Or one.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
I've pasted a paragraph that I wrote out. And at 110 words, it started to clip down. And so after about, depending on word length and stuff, I'm at just shy of 700 characters for it to fit well in the text block.
In the text block of the application?
Of the PDF form, yes.
Oh, of the PDF form. Yeah. So. So once you have completed your application and you are completely done, and you mark it as complete, and it hates this because I didn't do it all. Once you close it and you've done your budget, this gray box will turn blue, and that is the final submit. You have not technically submitted this application until you get the box to turn blue and you hit submit. Like I said, the budget is not required, but any field that has a red asterisk in it has to have something in it. So and mostly what we put in the actual application, like the things that we made required are information about the organization itself and the people. And so, but just so you know, until that box turns blue, you will not have submitted your application. Well, actually, the box turns blue and you push submit. And then it does bring up I certify, blah, blah, blah. And then you click yes, and that's the official, you're done. And then it says, thank you for your application. You are now submitted. And I guess if I wanted to, I could just roll through this whole thing and stuff things in here, but we are close to the end. So. Tell I'm the finance person because I'm doing everything on Tandy. Oh, it turns green, not blue. Right. So then you hit submit. And it says this application has been submitted. Success. Your application is under review. Where is the is that on the grant agreement itself, not the application, the certification? Stephanie, did the certification, is it on the actual grant agreement, not the application?
What certification?
There's a certified statement, a statement that says, like it's okay, maybe.
Right.
maybe
Yeah, it's supposed to be on the application that says that everything you submit is the truth.
Yeah,
You're answering to the best
I'm
of your
gonna have to-
ability, and it should be on the application. So if it's not, we'll ask them to add that.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get that one fixed then, because I thought should be here.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hey, well, we're at 3:01, so, yeah, if you have any other questions, please email us. Our email is grants@ruralcap.org. And I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you. And thanks for your patience as we figure out all of these systems.
Thanks,